my Corky's connection.
All right. Hello. How you doing, Doug?
Doing well, sir. Thank you for the barbecue.
Well, you're quite welcome.
I had it all over me when I was...
I want to talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
Hold that mic right
Hold
there.
this right here, all right? How you guys doing?
I appreciate, Doug, you being able to take time out of your busy schedule and join the broadcast today.
My pleasure. Are we on?
We're on right now.
Hi, guys.
Tomorrow's going to be our busiest day. I know your schedule's very busy, but if you got any time, swing by here tomorrow.
Okay.
There'll be a whole new set of people watching.
Okay.
We'll have 2,000 people watching the video tomorrow afternoon. We're a little under 1,000 today. And there'll be different people. But anyway, great. This is Colonel Douglas Wheelock, astronaut, commander of the Expedition 25, I think.
That's exactly right.
And he's here at Hamvention this week. And we're really privileged and honored to have you here.
Thank you very much, Tom. I appreciate it.
You mentioned the barbecue when you came up.
Oh my goodness.
Let me lead into this. I know you've been eating out of a toothpaste tube for 5 months.
Yes.
And all the guys here in Memphis, we talked about sending that down here to you. And I started wondering, now, if he hadn't had anything to eat in 5 months, is he going to really eat barbecue when he gets back into quarantine? So how did it go?
Oh, I ate that barbecue. I had it all over my face. It was delicious.
Right.
You know, in space, we after 6 months, actually, once you're there for about 3 or 4 weeks, your senses get really dulled. Your sense of smell, your sense of taste, and the food is like these MRE meals. You know, the military meals. It's either in a piece of plastic and dehydrated, and you just add hot water to it, so it tastes sort of like warm plastic, and or one of these military meals that's in a pouch that's been on a shelf somewhere for several years, and so it tastes like not quite like Mom used to make. So talking to Tom from space and remembering, I've been to Memphis just a handful of times, and I remember I actually missed my flight connection there one time, and I spent a night in Memphis, and I was at the airport. I said, "Hey, where's a good place to get something to eat?" And the guy looked at me. I can't remember. This is years ago, but he looked at me and said, "You like barbecue?" And I said, "Who doesn't?" He says, "Well, we have the best barbecue in the land," and I never went back. And so I asked Tom. I said, "Boy, I sure missed that Memphis Corky's barbecue," and he sent me some back to Houston. So as soon as my feet hit the ground, I think I had a glass of water first, and then dug into some Corky's barbecue.
That's great. We've got people calling in from around the world here. They said get a little bit closer to the microphone, maybe. Me too. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. Let's see. Well, you know, we thought the Memphis group was going to wear you out. You were very popular with the Memphis. There's a lot of the Memphis gang here, and I worked you 3 times mobile coming home from work, and numerous times, you know, from home, and these guys did, and it was a regular thing. You were on so often that it wasn't hit and miss. You were there.
Well, it was a lot of fun, and I need to get a plug in for my good friend Kenneth Ransom from NASA, and Kenneth is actually our ham radio expert down there. NASA does all of our training for us, and kind of heads up our program down there. And right now it's a voluntary thing for astronauts going up long duration, and so they ask you, it's like, hey, would you like to talk on the ham radio? And I thought, you know, I didn't really have a license at the time. I didn't have a license at the time, and really spent no time on amateur radio up until that time, other than just, you know, I spent a lot of time talking on the radio as a pilot. But I thought, you know, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So took a number of classes with Kenneth, and he also was one of the monitors of my exam. And I actually just got my license just before I left for the launch pad, so I had like 0 experience, and so I thought, you know what, I'm going to fire up that ham radio, and what I didn't expect was the response that we got. It was really overwhelming, and I had to be thinking fast and talking fast, and when all the call signs were coming up at once, it was sort of like an alphabet soup hitting me, and I wasn't ready for that. And so I sent a couple emails back to Kenneth at NASA. Hey, I need your help, and he gave me some pointers on how to kind of pick out partial call signs. And then the community of ham radio operators are so cordial to each other that if I pick up a letter here and there, I'd say like, hey, I heard Bravo Oscar out of San Diego, but I missed the rest of the call sign. Can you say again? And then everybody would kind of yield to that person, and and we were able to make a number of contacts. And of course, over the central part of the U.S., just a number of great friends. I'd like to put a plug out for David Pruitt in Portland, Oregon, and some of my friends down the West Coast there, and Seattle and Portland and down into California. And then, of course, my great friends in Memphis. And then I remember Eddie from Jonesboro, Arkansas, and a number of folks coming up over Oshkosh and Minnesota and Pennsylvania and just about every state in the Union. And we had a great time. It was really a lot of fun. It was a learning experience for me, though, and that's why I put together that ham radio video that we ended up, I think it's out on YouTube, that I was having such a struggle with, and I thought well, my friends in the ham radio business on the earth are probably wondering why I'm ignoring them, because you probably would call me and say, I know he's hearing me, why isn't he calling back? And I was trying to explain how difficult it is to get all the call signs coming at once, and so put that YouTube together to kind of let you get a look inside of the space station and see what it's like on the ham radio.
I think we all saw the video, and we saw what you were putting up with, all the people talking to top each other. And I think as the word got out that you were on more and more people got on.
Yes.
And it became much more difficult, because I think toward the end of your trip, it was tougher for us to make contact with you. And after seeing the video that you shot, we understand what was happening there. But, I think looking at that, timing is the issue there. You kind of wait till everybody piles up and then they quit, and maybe you kind of get in at the end.
Yeah, it was obviously with the approaching the coast, like the west coast of the U.S., I would always get those stations pretty clear for the first couple of minutes, and then of course leaving either down the Gulf Coast or out into the Atlantic, I would pick up those. I would get a lot of stations out of Delaware and Nova Scotia, St. John's Bay and Newfoundland, and as we're going out over the Atlantic and the signal I was losing line of sight for most of the continental U.S., I was able to talk a little more clearly to those sites on the. And I felt bad for my friends in Memphis, being right in the heart of the continent, is a little difficult. But I think we managed and tried to get as many contacts as we could. Even got to make some really great friends in Cuba. I remember the first night we had two back-to-back passes right over Cuba, and so I heard this call coming in for Cuba, and I answered it. And then he was so excited. I can't remember the call sign, but so excited. And then as we came back around 90 minutes later, the next time I came back around, I was flooded with calls, probably 15, 20 calls out of Cuba. And so it was really, really a neat experience.
Well, that's great. We're probably going to have some questions coming in on the chat room here. And John, maybe he'll even see if any questions come up here. Oh yeah, we've got a lot of time here, and we appreciate your time. And as questions come in, we may throw some at you there. And now you're a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy.
I'm originally from upstate New York, a very small town. I was actually born in Binghamton, New York. If you know where that is, it's the southern tier of New York, just north of the Pennsylvania border, just west of the Catskill Mountains, and a little town called I-81 runs right through Binghamton, and then out of Binghamton, it's now Interstate 86 runs down toward New York City. It used to be just Route 17 right along there, heading through the Catskills, and grew up in a little town over towards the Catskills, and then ended up going to West Point down on the Hudson. We call it the Hudson Valley School for Problem Children sometimes, but I went there and actually had a really, really wonderful time, and I'm still active duty Army, so I've been in the Army ever since, and I've
I was going to say also, you're the first Army.
The first Army astronaut the first Army officer to command a spaceship. So now active duty, I should say, because we did have two Army astronauts that were retired from the Army that ended up commanding the space station, Bill MacArthur and Jeff Williams.
Okay, great. Let's see now, how are we doing on time here? We've got a few more. We got a little while, don't we? Okay, good. And we got a surprise for you in a few minutes. We're going to give to you. I won't tell you what that is right now.
Does it come with a bib?
Well, no, it's not going to be that. It's not going to be that. But it has a connection to that. Let's see. I had a couple notes here. Oh, hey, yeah, I know what I wanted to ask you. You've flown both the space shuttle and the Soyuz coming down, and I heard a little about your experience on how you felt coming down.
Yeah.
Tell us about the difference between the two.
Big difference between back in 2007, I flew to space on STS-120. It was on the Space Shuttle Discovery, and I went up to the space station. I did 3 spacewalks during that time. We stayed for 15 days, and I came home on the space shuttle, and we landed on a runway there in Kennedy Space Center in Florida. And then just last year, when I went to command the space station, I actually launched on a Russian rocket, the Russian Soyuz rocket, out of Kazakhstan. And we launched to the space station, and then came home in this. I stayed for 6 months on the space station, and I came home in this little tiny capsule, and landed, kind of crash landed into the hard Earth over there in Kazakhstan. So, much different experience. The space shuttle actually, on launch, the space shuttle is actually a bit more violent than the Soyuz. And if you think about it, it's the space shuttle is very asymmetric. It's got the big external tank, and then it's got 2 solid rocket boosters on the side, and then the space shuttle sort of sits on top of all that. And so when that thing rolls, actually the roll axis is that big external tank, and so that space shuttle kind of sits out about 20-25 feet a moment arm. So when you're rolling in that thing, you kind of feel like you're on the end of a merry-go-round, kind of swinging around. And those solid rocket boosters, solid rocket fuel burns a lot differently than liquid fuel. And the main engines on the backside of the shuttle are liquid fuel, but those solid boosters, the first 2 minutes and 5 seconds of flight on the space shuttle is pretty violent. It's just a lot of vibration in all different axes, and I tried to. I thought, we all carry these real fancy knee boards with a couple of extra pencils and everything, but there's no way you can write anything in that first stage of that space shuttle. And we didn't have any malfunctions during our launch, but I tried to just kind of reach up to see if I could even reach the correct switch if I had to throw a switch, and my hand was sort of like this, and the space shuttle is and then once you get off those solid boosters, of course, it smooths out quite a bit. Then coming back home through the atmosphere, the space shuttle is actually pretty smooth coming back in. It's like a glider coming back in, and you can feel the drag and feel a little bit of it's more of a lateral vibrations, kind of like we call like a lateral shuffle, kind of a little bit. And then you land just like a glider right on the runway at Kennedy Space Center. Now, the Soyuz is exactly opposite. You're on this tiny little rocket. It's all liquid-fueled engines. So the liquid actually dampens a lot of that vibration. So when you have a liquid-fueled rocket, the vibrations are actually quite a bit less. And in fact, with the space shuttle, once you get off those solid boosters, the remaining fuel is liquid, and it really smooths out pretty nicely the last 6.5 minutes to orbit on the space shuttle. But launching on the Soyuz, you're actually sitting on the top part of the big candle, so the thrust is sort of like centerline thrust, and so you don't feel as much vibration during